We've been talking recently about optional but important kinds of auto insurance coverages. And last week we talked about uninsured motorist coverage. Join us again this week to talk about underinsured motorist coverage as attorney Tom Sinus of the Sinus Dramus Law Firm. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. So let's rewind just a little bit. Remind us again about the differences between mandatory and optional auto insurance coverage.
Right. So when we're talking about things like uninsured motorist coverage, underinsured motorist coverage, we're in the realm of optional coverages. That just means coverages that you don't have to buy in order to have a legal insurance policy. As we talked about last week, in order to legally drive, you have to have insurance, but really you only have to have insurance in the area of liability, certain forms of property damage, and no fault benefits, as we've talked about. But that doesn't mean that just because that's all you have to have, that that's the right choice, that that's enough. There are other forms of coverage that are optional. We talked last week about uninsured. We'll talk this week about underinsured. But another good example is collision and comprehensive coverage. Those are actually optional coverages. Now, many times people have, say, a car lease or a loan where they're required to have it, but they're not actually required by law. So there's this whole realm of auto insurance coverages that you're not required to have, but again, you oftentimes should have them.
Okay, so what is underinsured motorist coverage and how does it differ from uninsured motorist coverage?
Well, one way it doesn't differ is they almost sound the same, right?
Yeah.
You almost have to work to make yourself decipher that slight change in language, uninsured, underinsured. They almost sound so similar that I think people think they are the same. They are the same in that they're both optional, but they are very different in terms of when they apply. So last week we talked about uninsured motorist coverage. And I said a shorthand way of remembering that is it's coverage that you buy to protect you and your family from drivers who have no insurance. Okay, well then what about underinsured motorist coverage? Well, a similar shorthand way to remember that is coverage that you buy to protect you and your family from bad drivers with lousy insurance or minimal insurance. Again, the concept here is you purchasing insurance that would protect you in the event you're involved in an accident